After the massive critical and commercial success of Tears of the Kingdom last year, I certainly did not expect a new Zelda game to be unveiled and released so soon, especially on the creaky 7.5-year-old Nintendo Switch. When Echoes of Wisdom was revealed in June, I wasn't exactly over the moon about it. I wasn't thrilled to be revisiting the art style of the Link's Awakening remake, as I didn't really love that game, and its plasticky, diorama-like art style didn't really gel with my personal sensibilities. And while I've wanted to see Zelda herself in a hero role for a long time, this is not really what I had imagined for her playable debut. Copying and pasting objects and enemies is not at all what I expected to see from her. I was thinking of something more along the lines of how she plays in Super Smash Bros., wielding powerful magical spells like fireballs. I was also wary of Echoes of Wisdom, as just this year Nintendo gave the playable treatment to its other princess character in the disastrous Princess Peach Showtime. That game has to be the worst game I've played this year, and one of Nintendo's worst misses in their entire history. So I of course was worried they would bungle their next attempt to bring a princess into the spotlight. However, I'm pleased to report that my apprehensions were ultimately unfounded, as Echoes of Wisdom is a very enjoyable Zelda experience, although it still does have a few issues that prevent it from reaching the lofty benchmarks of other Zelda installments. In this review, I'll go in-depth on all aspects of the game, so by the end you'll have a good understanding of where it succeeds and where it doesn't. With that out of the way, let's get into the review. Strange purple rifts have started appearing all over Hyrule, spiriting away both Link and the King into the void-like still world. With Link and the King replaced by evil imposters, Princess Zelda is outcast from her castle and framed as being responsible for the creation of the rifts. So it's up to her, and in true Zelda hero style, her cute little companion Tri, to fix the rifts and uncover the truth of who's behind it all. With story being one of the most important ingredients of any Zelda game, I'd like to talk about it first. Don't worry, there are no spoilers here. As a Zelda-focused story, Echoes of Wisdom really does succeed on this front, although it doesn't do too much that's new. It ultimately conforms to, rather than challenges, the standard Zelda formula. There's nothing too surprising or subversive here, it's still very much a Zelda plot, just with Zelda herself in the starring role. And that's not really a bad thing, as it's fun to revisit Zelda tropes, characters and settings, just told in a new way. I liked seeing a bunch of different races we don't often see, like the Deku Scrubs and the River Zora. Thankfully, the art style serves rather than hinders the storytelling itself. While Link's Awakening was rather limited and conservative with characters and enemies, seeing the different races like the Gerudo and Zora portrayed in this art style actually won me over. Call me a sucker if you want, but there's something so cute and endearing about seeing character types known for being highly detailed like they are in Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild, reduced to simple, plasticky cartoon models. You can't not smile being immersed in this playful, colourful sandbox. And getting back to the storytelling itself, I really love the way Link is used. He's not just a gender-flipped damsel in distress here, but he has a unique role in the overall story that's very in line with previous iterations of the character, while still being an original take on the famous hero. He has a distinct backstory and an important role, so fans of the character will not be disappointed by his demotion to a supporting character. Overall, the story is a perfectly fun and serviceable entry into the 30-plus-year-old Zelda canon that doesn't do anything mind-blowing, lives up to its central premise, and does a few unexpected things here and there. But Wind Waker or Tears of the Kingdom, this is certainly not. I also felt it was a bit too short, and I'll get back to this point later. So, how about the gameplay? Does Princess Zelda's long-awaited playable debut live up to everyone's expectations? Well, it's a yes, and it's also a no. The central mechanic of copying objects and items and pasting them as echoes is a creative and unexpected one, at least on the surface. It's certainly fun defeating an enemy, learning its echo, and then using that echo to murder that enemy's brothers and sisters. The first few times I did that, I could not stop laughing at the absurdity of it, and had a great time discovering which echo was good at killing which enemies. This is the most unique gameplay element of Echoes of Wisdom, and it does match Zelda's character after all, similar to how she summons phantoms in Super Smash Bros. As she is not a capable fighter, it makes sense that as the hero she must summon enemies to fight on her behalf. A bit like Pokemon in a sense, especially especially with the more echoes you collect. There's also Sword Fighter mode, which essentially gives Zelda Link's moveset for a short time, enabling her to swing a sword, fire arrows, and use bombs. It comes in clutch when your health is low and is ridiculously overpowered. Luckily, it's limited how often you can use it, and you can bypass a lot of tricky combat by using it. I didn't use it that much because I wanted to use echoes as much as possible, but it's nice that it's there to alleviate some stress that some players may have. When it comes to environmental echoes, like beds, tables, rocks, and platforms, this is not quite as unique as it appears on the surface. These echoes function like items in a traditional Zelda game, and it's not that different to just pulling out the item you need in a specific situation. But where it does differ is how these items/echoes are used to solve puzzles. When stuck in a dungeon, you'll need to use your brain to figure out which echo you need and how to use it to advance. Some of these puzzles did test me and break my brain, which I was happy for. While trailers for Echoes of Wisdom made it seem like we would be able to solve puzzles almost any way we wanted, like its 3D counterparts, it is ultimately still a traditional Zelda. Many puzzles are open-ended, and many puzzles have a more specific solution. Both are great, and there's a nice balance of the two. However, some puzzles show their hand a bit too easily. For example, in the lead up to a puzzle, you will often see what enemy or environmental object you need to solve it. For example, you might see a random room full of beds, meaning you need to make a staircase of beds in the next room. Or you might see the elemental type of the enemy you will need as well. These are not so subtle hints for the experienced gamer, and they might go over the heads of those less familiar with Zelda, but for an experienced gamer, it's disappointing the game gives away the solution too easily. It's not in every case, but it does happen a lot. I would have liked puzzles to ramp up in difficulty towards the end, perhaps gated off after a certain level of completion to really test gamers' brains and to make use of the echoes mechanic. It is what it is, and perhaps that's just my personal gripe, as I generally desire challenging puzzles because, well, I'm just nuts. Still, I really wish there was some kind of separate challenge mode that really hones in on using echoes to solve puzzles. I really feel that combat-based content is in abundance here, but puzzle-solving content is lacking. The Zelda series usually has a good balance of these two, but it's a bit off balance here. And one final point about echoes is the menu you select them from. While the menu interface is fast, I feel it could have been improved just a bit. The categories you can organize your echo inventory into are nice, but they're confined to a single row, so for a rarer echo, expect to be doing a lot of scrolling. I feel this could have been expanded into 3 rows to make the process a bit smoother, but it's not too tedious, and I didn't feel like I spent too much of my playtime navigating menus. I've seen a lot of other players nitpicking this point, but personally I don't think it's too bad. In addition to echoes, the game introduces another series first, automatons. After doing some simple side quests, you can get little robots based on existing monsters that need winding up before unleashing their fury on enemies. I was super excited to use these when I saw the trailer, and as cool as they are, they're functionally useless. Every encounter can be resolved with echoes, and automatons don't really offer anything different to echoes, besides being more tedious to deploy with their lengthy wind-ups. You'd think these would come in clutch in boss battles, but you spend 20 seconds winding them up only for them to be one-shotted by the enemy. This was a really underwhelming feature, and I'm not sure why it's here. Automatons are a cute little addition, but sadly they offer nothing of value to the overall experience. Similar to cooking in Breath and Tears, Zelda gets to make smoothies instead. It's a pared-back, simplified cooking experience which grants recovery items and special abilities depending on what you make. It was fun to experiment with different ingredient combos to see what gets made, but man is it a tedious process, as there's a lot of dialogue to skip through each and every time you just want to make a smoothie. This should have been sped up a bit, as it does kill your momentum in what is an otherwise lean experience. As for exploring the world, it's a lot of fun. The map is much larger than that found in Link's Awakening, but is significantly smaller than those you'd find in Breath or Tears. Still, as always with Zelda games, it's pure joy just wandering around, finding secrets and completing side quests, getting immersed in this version of Hyrule and seeing everything that's on offer. Small as the world may be, it's jam-packed with stuff for what it is. So, this leads me to the most contentious point of Echoes of Wisdom. We have a simple story, lack of puzzle-based content, an underwhelming automaton feature, and a small map. There's no easy way to say it, but Echoes of Wisdom is disappointingly short. It's such a fun core concept I wanted to see iterated on and expanded on further, and an intriguing story that finishes just when it starts to get interesting. I thought I had a lot more left to do, but I suddenly realized I was in the endgame and felt that bittersweet pain of knowing that the adventure was coming to an end. It took me a mere 15 hours to complete the main story, and a total 25 hours to finish the 50 side quests and gather up the remaining collectibles. Maybe it's just me and I play these things too quickly, but when we think Zelda, we think of a long, epic adventure. I really wanted Zelda herself to lead such a lengthy journey, but unfortunately Echoes of Wisdom simply is not it. This game could easily be expanded with DLC, but I'm 99% sure that's not happening, given the Switch is winding down. While there's nothing wrong with a short and sweet game, for Zelda I just wanted that little bit more. And now, onto the technical side of things. The art style does the heavy lifting here because, as you'd expect, the frame rate is not up to scratch at all. It's just like it was in Link's Awakening, and it performs about as well as most Switch games these days. It's inconsistent, but it's not bad enough to ruin or distract from the core gameplay experience. It's no surprise it's like this, with the Switch approaching a whopping 8 years of existence. While we could forgive frame rate dips a few years ago in Link's Awakening, it's frustrating that Nintendo have not updated their hardware to improve performance. I guess it's a personal thing, as I bought a PS5 this year and have gotten used to higher resolutions and frame rates, so the crusty Switch's performance issues are more noticeable to me now than they were before. We need a new Nintendo console now more than ever, and honestly I'm surprised this game wasn't pushed to the Switch too. A new Zelda would be a perfect launch window game for it, and I don't think we needed a new Zelda this close to the successful release of last year's Tears of the Kingdom. Anyway, it's a shame that the charm of the art style is undercut by hardware performance issues, but it is what it is. Finally, the music is pretty good. It's certainly no Tears of the Kingdom epicness, and it does keep the same sound font as Link's Awakening. I didn't really like Link's Awakening's cutesy and sometimes grating soundtrack, but it's a step up from that here. The expanded scope of Echoes of Wisdom compared to Link's Awakening allows for more variety, and compositions are overall nicer and more pleasant this time. I probably won't listen to it outside of the game, but it's a perfectly suitable accompaniment to the game itself. So, to conclude, is Echoes of Wisdom worth $60? Yes, but only just. It does right by its main character, giving Princess Zelda an epic journey worthy of her name. The gameplay concepts are unique and incredibly fun, and the story, world, and characters are charming and memorable. Unfortunately, the quest is over far too soon, and the choppy frame rate will be distracting to seasoned gamers. Overall, it's not too challenging, but that's okay. It's a fun top-down Zelda that slots in comfortably alongside other top-down Zeldas, but it doesn't quite reach the heights of Minish Cap or A Link Between Worlds. Echoes of Wisdom would be a perfect entry point for younger players or Zelda newcomers, being more manageable and less overwhelming than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. While I personally would have liked a longer and more epic Zelda adventure, it's a short and sweet Zelda game that is definitely worth playing. Despite the issues I had, it's one of the best and most creative games of the year. So, thanks for watching until the end. So have you played or not played Echoes of Wisdom? Tell me your thoughts down in the comments below and I'll reply to you. And if you found this review useful, I am begging you to smash that like button and to smash that subscribe button even harder. So that's all from me, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.